Hi everybody, so we're on to the next part of the Sandman and the Turtles by Michael Morpurgo. Can you remember what happened in the last part? Michael and Polly were at the beach and Polly suggested they built the giant Sandman. So they were working on it really hard and they managed to finish it. We ended off with, "No," I said quickly. "I think he's just right as he is. Anyway, there's no point. The tide will soon be in and he'll be all washed away." And some of you guessed that you think the Sandman's going to come to life before the tide comes in. I think that was Caden and Sam. You both thought that. Shall we carry on reading and see what happens? I shouldn't have said that. "Oh no," she cried as she ran down to the sea. I followed her. "You've got to stop it, Mikey. You've got to stop the sea coming in," she said. And I laughed. Why did he laugh? Well, you would, wouldn't you? "It's not funny," she shouted, stamping her foot. "You've got to stop it, else he'll drown." And a little wave ran up the beach and over her toes. "Quick!" she cried as she grabbed my arm and tugged on it hard. "But there's nothing we can do," I said. "It's the moon." "The moon?" She was screaming at me now. "What's the daft moon got to do with it?" "A lot," I said, and I began to explain as patiently as I could all about how it was the pull of the moon that made the tides rise and fall like they did, and that there really wasn't much I could do about it. "Stuff the moon," she said, and she fetched her spade and began to dig furiously in the sand between the Sandman's feet and the rising tide. "What are you doing?" I asked her. What do you think she's doing? Why is she digging in the sand? "Sophia," she said, "if we dig a big, big hole, then the sea will all fall in and the Sandman won't get drowned, will he?" Is this going to work? Can you stop the sea coming in by digging a big hole? I tried to tell her that you couldn't dig a hole big enough, that there was quite a lot of sea out there and it was all coming our way, but she wouldn't listen. So, side by side, we dug together and every time I looked up, the sea was coming in closer. Then it was trickling into our hole and there was a sandy pool at the bottom of it. "See?" Polly was jumping up and down in triumph. "I told you, didn't I?" Sometimes with some people, it's best not to argue. I stood and I waited and I watched as the tide filled up the hole, overflowed, and then spread slowly up the beach. Polly shouted at it to go back. In spite of all her fury, it lapped over her feet and rolled up towards the Sandman. "You can always make another one," I said. There wasn't much else I could say. "But he's my Sandman and I don't want him to drown." And then she began to cry. She was standing by the Sandman's feet now and the tears were running down into her mouth. I put my arm round her. "We'll make you another one tomorrow, just the same, I promise." "But I don't want one just the same. I want him." A whispering ripple of sea ran up over the sand and touched the Sandman's ankle. "Oh, please wake up, Mr. Sandman," Polly cried. "Please wake up, please! We've got to wake him up! We've got to!" As she crouched down and bellowed in his ear, "Wake up, Mr. Sandman, wake up!" She turned to me with pleading eyes. "Oh, help me, Mikey, please help me." And so I found myself shouting with her. I took hold of his rocky knee. I even tried to shake it. He didn't move. The sea came hissing up the beach and washed around his other foot. And then quite suddenly I remembered Dadsy's story. "Maybe if you told him you loved him, that you'd look after him. You know, like Dadsy said. Tell him we'll feed him," I said. "We've got the picnic, haven't we?" She looked at me for just a moment and then she put her arms around his neck, kissed him on the sandy cheek and whispered in his clamshell ear, "We've got crisps, Mr. Sandman. We've got tomatoes. We've got peanut butter sandwiches and hard-boiled eggs. And I do love you, Mr. Sandman, and I'll feed you and look after you for always and always, and I'll help you get back to Ireland if you want. Honest, I will." And she kissed him again on both cheeks. And she wiped the sand off her mouth. Is it going to work? What do you think? She's done exactly what Dadsy's story said. He needed to know that somebody loved him and was going to look after him. Polly's certainly done that. A finger twitched, then a hand, and then an arm. It could have been the wind whipping at the sand, but I knew it wasn't. The limpet shell's eyes opened and blinked and squinted towards the sunlight. Polly sprang off him and backed away towards me as the Sandman propped himself up on his elbows. He looked at us up and down. I don't think he could believe what he was seeing, and he wasn't the only one. He lifted a sandy arm and rubbed his eyes with the back of his wrist. When he yawned, I felt Polly's hand creep into mine, and when he sat up, I realised she was biting my knuckles. Just sitting up, the Sandman was as tall as Uncle Rob, and Uncle Rob's tall enough. Then he breathed in deeply, stretched and yawned again, scratched his head. When he'd finished, he twiddled his finger in his ear. I kept expecting to see everything fall off, the sand or the seaweed or the shells, but not a single thing did. Not a grain of sand, nothing. Under his mop of sea lettuce hair, his face was round like a pumpkin, and when he stood up and smiled down at us, his cockleshell teeth gleamed white in the sun. "Best sleep I've had in a long time," he said. He spoke in a deep echoing drawl of a voice that sounded as if he was still yawning. "Was I dreaming, or was I not?" he went on to say. "Did someone say something about a bite to eat?" And he patted his belly in a meaningful sort of way. He was so tall it hurt your neck to look up at him. I'm telling you, he was a giant, a living, breathing giant. Polly wasn't going to be able to reply, not with her teeth deep in my knuckles, so I thought I'd better say something myself. "We've got sausage rolls," I said. And that's the end of chapter 1. So, well done to those of you that thought Sandman was going to come to life before the tide came up and got him. Indeed it did. So you can guess what my next question is going to be. What do you think is going to happen next? In the story that Dadsy told, he said that the Sandman wanted to get back to Ireland. Do you think Polly and Mikey are going to be able to help him? What about the 3 turtles, the big rocks out in the sea? What about the coracle that became Coracle Island? What's going to happen to the Sandman's boat? Let me know your thoughts and your ideas in the comments below, and I will be back on Monday because it's Friday today. So have a lovely weekend. Take care. Be safe. Oh no, it's not. Silly me, it's Thursday today, isn't it? So I will be back tomorrow. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a lovely day, and if you're going out to clap the LHS tonight, make sure you clap really loud because they've been fantastic helping us all, haven't they? See you tomorrow. Bye bye.